coming up right after this, guys, super duper excited. We're going to welcome back to the stream none other than Robbie B himself, Robbie Benson.
Back.
He is back. He's back and better than ever. He is going to be joined by I would say, one of my absolute favorite, educational music YouTubers. It is the one and only 8-Bit Music Theory. If you don't know 8-Bit Music Theory, he has unbelievably awesome videos that basically do it deep dives onto jazz music theory and all kinds of music theory using video game songs as references.
Yeah, and it's really great just because, I don't even understand music, but he puts everything on screen and explains it in such a way that anyone can enjoy it. And I'm sure music theorists and actual musicians enjoy it so much more, but even from just a pleb standpoint, I love it.
Yeah, I mean, he does a really good job of explaining these super advanced concepts in a really consumable way. And so we're really excited to announce a brand new segment that we came up with just a little while ago called Gwobstoppers. Now, the idea behind this is, I remember whenever we thought this up, basically Robbie Benson shreds on keys, and he's actually insane at that instrument.
Oh, okay.
And in real life, as you saw undoubtedly during that Super Soul Bros set, and sometimes I'll be watching him and I'll be like, Robbie, I don't understand what you just did. Mm-hmm. And then he'll go, yeah, I don't know what I did either. And so sometimes Robbie himself actually does not know what he just played. And so we have the legendary, the PH Dizzle, 8-Bit Music Theory to stop Gwobs as he plays crazy stuff. And then they're going to do a real-time deep dive on the ridiculous things that Gwobs did. And you're going to take away some high-quality entertainment and high-quality education from it. So I'd say, without further ado, Stodel, are we good? I think we can go ahead and just cut over to 8-Bit Music Theory and Robbie Benson. This is Gwobstoppers.
Yo, folks! Hey! We're doing it! We're doing the thing! Holy cow! All right, I'm going to mute myself here. There we go. Folks, we're here. We're live on MAGWest. And I heard through the... This is really quite a technical... what would you call it? It's a mammoth of technical achievement here. In this building that I'm in, through this wall, I hear Dak hyping up this panel, and he just called 8-Bit Music Theory he possesses a PH Dizzle. Folks, we're here. We got 8-Bit Music Theory. We have musical royalty here. I really don't feel like I should be on the same screen with you. And it looks like I'm looking at you too right now. I'm like...
Yeah, true. I should have set up some...
Hey, we just kind of touched... Yeah. Hey, oh, wait, I could maybe even make it fit right in between...
Oh, man. If we were smart, we would have planned some pass me those chips.
Oh, yeah. So, what are we doing here, Ben? This is a whole new experiment.
I'm even with a PH Dizzle, I feel honored to be on screen with you, man. I'm planning to learn a lot in this hour.
Well, me too. Hopefully I can learn what the heck is going on too. This is a creation, really. This is sort of a brainchild of Dak's, I think. I feel like we're kind of hopping into this. It's like a blind date. It's like Dak, he played Cupid and he tried matchmaking Ben and me, and this is something called Gwobstoppers, where I go by Gwobs as my solo personal artist handle, and oftentimes when Dak comes over to my house, he'll he just watches me play, and then he just stops me at random points and says, "What was that? What was that thing you just did, Gwobs?" And I try my best to try to explain it, but I'm really not that musically learned in a articulatable sense. Like, I can't really explain what I'm doing a lot of the time. I'm working on it, but I think the idea was with 8-bit music theory, like perhaps the most qualified video game music authority of musical theory. I think this is like a very interesting session to unfold here.
Well, yeah, and I'm super excited because all of the best musicians, I feel like, can't describe exactly what they're doing.
That's true.
And I would love to know. How you make all the groovy keyboard jam goodness that you make come out of that thing. So
yeah, I try, but yeah, it's a lot of I think just listening to music. That's kind of the main thing. Just listening to the music you want to sound like, and then that's the first step. Just kind of hearing what you want to shoot for, and then working on emulating and copying as much as you can.
Yeah. That makes sense. Should we play? Does anyone in the chat want to hear something specific? Want to hear a tune? Should we listen to some
jammage? So yeah, I think this to kind of set the rest of this hour here, or we got about 45 minutes. Feel free to just ask questions in the chat. We want this to be kind of a dialogue with the folks, and feel free to send in some song requests too, and I can try playing a few of those. And let's see what we get into here. I was playing some Dire Docks earlier. How about a classic like Mario Underground or Green Hill to start? That's a good idea. Maybe I'll do a little Green Hill Zone. We played some of that earlier today.
Oh, yeah. It's a VGM standard. I feel like I need to stop the Gwobs. I hate to stop what's going on. I found the flaw in this premise already. I don't want to stop you from playing.
This is truly a first time for all of us here. When I train wreck, that's when you definitely want to stop me.
Yeah. I'll try and catch you before then. So there's like a million different ways we could go with this right now, but the one that caused me to actually stop you was in the bridge, that last bridge, you did a B flat chord to an A something chord. What was that?
I might have made it a suspended seventh kind of chord. That might have been it. See, it might have been like, I kind of interchange suspended sevenths and minors a lot. Like, I like to get the 4 in there if it's a minor chord, so it kind of sounds sussy. And I have a tendency to kind of play. I have a tendency to kind of play it as a, like, obviously we're playing for an A minor chord. I would do a C major on top of an A, which gives us an A minor 7. And then this might be arguable, or this might not be the right way to put it, but I love adding just a lot of notes sometimes, even if it's like redundant notes. So I'll just thumb 2, I'll hit G and A, and then I like to add in like the 9 And then I might even reiterate the G here. So like I'm kind of creating like an octave of what's our... So
kind of like in big band writing, that's like a very typical sax section thing.
Oh, is it?
Octaves, and then you fill in everything in between.
Wow.
Just every note.
A really fat sax. Wow, that's really cool. Yeah. That's good to know because I've always loved like that really rich sax harmony kind of sound.
Yeah.
But aside from going this way with a minor, I might actually go full suspended, so it's like an A suspended sound now. So I'm essentially playing like a G major chord over A, and maybe I'll add in the E as well.
I see. So is it is it just really like the more the merrier, as many notes as you can? At
times, like
Sure.
It is. You just want to balance it out, but lately, I've loved really clustery chords with lots of notes close together. That wasn't always the way I played, and it might change in a couple of years, but yeah.
Well, that one really hit me for whatever reason. That A sus. Yeah. Maybe because I was expecting an A minor too.
Yeah. I think
very cool.
I think going suspended seventh on a lot of chords. That's kind of an easy, safe thing to do. It doesn't drastically change the quality of the chord. It really is like a very ambiguous sort of chord,
right?
From the way I use it. Like I could approach that whole B section with suspended seventh chords, like well, that's a little spicy because because the melody note is the D here. So I probably have to, you take it, or you kind of go in terms of how the melody would lead it. Okay, you could suspend that too.
That sounds so good.
One of the rules I heard was the right note's always a half step away. So take comfort in knowing that literally, like, just experiment with throwing some extra notes in. The worst thing that happens is it sounds out, and then you remove it, and now it's in.
yeah, exactly. Like, ooh, I meant to do that. There's a little extra spice for you in that chord.
That's truly it. Like, I think a lot of cool musical ideas come from just sheer playfulness and experimenting, and not waiting to read it in a book or not waiting to see someone else play it, but just I think of it as like kind of building. You're adding layers on top of what you already know. If you own some chord shapes and you've got some spare fingers, start. Oh, that doesn't sound right. Oh, that's a nice one. Yeah. So like that can be That could be a fun way.
I can't tell you. Sorry, I can't tell the number of times I have been like trying to write or play, and I tried to play something and went, "Oh, that sounded great," and looked down and realized that like my hands were in the wrong place, and I totally missed what I was going for, but did something way better by accident.
Same here. That's exactly.
But that's okay. So then the other question I had, is, and this is a lot more broad, but what went through your mind deciding to take it into that kind of like laid back swung feel,
honestly,
as opposed to like the original?
Honestly, and this is what we said at the beginning, like, just listen to the music you like and just take as many ideas from it as you can. So I played with the One Ups. I played with them at MAGFest 2016, I think it was, because their keyboardist couldn't make it. So I sat in with them for their show, and they just played Green Hill Zone with that funky swing. So I just said, yeah, that sounds good. I'll start doing that. Yeah. And then I love, like when you stretch time a little bit like that, or when you change up the groove, I like to also play with the rhythm of the melody, which that's kind of an interesting direction to go, because when you mess with the rhythm of a melody, I think rhythm is such a big part of music. Like I always say, you could play all the wrong notes, but the right rhythm, and recognize what it is. Like, But but if you play the right notes with the wrong rhythm, it's indistinct. You can't tell what the heck it is.
Right. Yeah. That's so true. Eh? Huh.
So like try to find a balance of like deviating from the normal way the melody sounds. But
do you find there's any kind of common rhythmic changes that you'll make to a melody? Like, do you find you kind of anticipate certain beats more, or you like lay back and then try and catch up? Like, are there things that you like to do?
Yeah, I think with Green Hill Zone, well, one basic answer I would say is it depends on the song. But with Green Hill Zone, since the melody is very repetitive, like it has a repeating rhythm, especially. So even though the notes are changing, the rhythm is consistent. That's kind of a rhythmic motif in the melody. So I played I might do the melody vanilla the first time and then like switch it up the second time. So that way there's like you can tell what it's kind of harking back to or deviating from. So like... So like in that case, I laid back, or I held longer on that first note and then caught up with it. So yeah, I think that is a very common thing where you kind of stretch a couple early notes and then catch up with it later. And then like taking something that's normally a swung eighth kind of sound, but then just giving it what would that be, a triplet kind of thing?
Yeah.
And then like that's a great example of like kind of coming in a little anticipated. I like to go. Yeah.
That was awesome.
That was a blackout moment. I don't know what.
So now I really do like that big triplet over the swung feel thing. That's very cool. But now I want you to tell me about your thought process reharmonizing a tune like this. Because like you said, kind of like you said with the changing the melody.
Sure.
You started out just kind of playing the chords the way they are on the original track. And then by the end, you're adding in tons of chords.
Yeah.
And like not all of them are like super crazy cerebral
sure
things, but talk about like what's going through your head when you're like, I'm going to add some more, sprinkle some more chords in here.
Yeah. I like to tritones are just a very fun thing to do, and so like for anyone, maybe I don't know if tritone is a known term here in the chat, but doing like a lot of descending ideas. That's a fun thing. And again, I just completely stole that from the 1-Ups. Like I remember playing with them. They were like. So like right on that, just right there, yeah.
That's one of those where now I'm gonna listen to the original tune and think like, where is the tritone? Like it just sounds so right.
It's so right, yeah. And voicing that is so easy too. We were talking about that, but like, so what's happening here is normally in the song we would resolve to a C major here, but instead of that I'm going to the tritone of C, which is down to an F sharp here, and I'm playing that as like a dominant chord with a flat 5. And so the voicing I'm using is pretty simple. It's just like a E augmented triad. And so this is actually one of the first voicings I learned to do a tritone of anything, is play either an augmented chord that's a whole step down from what your actual tritone root note is. So, and then in this case, since we're trying to go from that C to F, but we're doing the tritone, which is F sharp, down to F. So now we can resolve just by getting this like
so clean
separation here. Yeah.
That's great.
But another voicing you can do is just this is like your typical 5/7 chord that you'd learn in kind of beginner piano, like your 1 chord F major and then your 5/7 with this voicing here. A lot of people that have learned piano, they got that kind of a voicing.
Sure, yeah.
So taking that same voicing and just playing that over the tritone, now you've got 4 distinct notes, and you got this really nice. This illustrates essentially an F sharp dominant 7 with a flat 5. So it's so. And again, just that descending B flat down.
Yeah.
You get this nice movement. I really like to think of what my destination chord is, and then muscle memory kicks in, and I play like some 5 chord to get there, or maybe a 2/5 to get there, or a 6/2/5, or a 3/6/2/5 to get there. So
because I was hearing a lot of like 3/6/2/5.
Yeah.
Stuff.
Yeah.
So you're really thinking ahead, like, in a couple bars I need to hit this F, so I'll add in.
Right.
I see.
Exactly. So and that's a good point. You asked, what am I thinking? Well, first off, I'm not thinking. I think just generally to be able to play music, it's like when we talk, we don't really think about what we're saying. If we're comfortable in a language, we're not thinking about the words we're saying unless we're trying to reach for that $500 vocabulary word or whatever. But so like a lot of these isms are things that I just have practiced so that they're muscle memory, and I don't have to think about how to maneuver to play a 2/5/1. I've just kind of gotten used to doing that maneuver of a tritone and then resolving to a major chord. There was a tune I used to play it's called That's the Time, or Feel Like Making Love, with Roberta Flack.
That's such a tasty chord.
So that's a great little. That's if you took that away from this lesson, I think that's a great, very useful thing. So whenever you're landing on a major chord in any song, you could an option for you is to play the tritone, which basically go up a half step from what your destination chord is, and then do your. So if I'm to resolve to, let's make it more apparent. Let's say I'm going to resolve to a C chord. So I would do a tritone, D flat, and then play essentially my 5/7 chord of what would be a 5/7 going to a C, but I'm playing that with the tritone root. And so that could be used anywhere. We used it on Chrono Trigger earlier too. Even resolving to a minor chord.
Yeah. Interesting.
Just little ideas.
So then, would you ever use that in a different invert? Like, so in all those examples, you had what would that be? Like the sharp 4, flat 5 of the chord on top.
Yeah.
And then that stays on top to become the 5th of the next chord. So it's like. Sounds great.
Yeah.
Is that like the specific way that you would play that, or would you ever play inversions, or do the inversions not sound quite as nice because the top note isn't so smooth?
So I do add other notes. But the first way I learned it was what I was showing. But I think I like to add in essentially like playing an augmented chord, like an A flat augmented, and then also adding the D here. And then you could even add, it's redundant, but adding in the actual root note of this tritone chord. Here's another one I like. So this is like a major 7 with a sharp 5. Yeah, sharp raised 5. So just like so just like we would be playing an A flat augmented, we could also add in that 7 in there.
Very cool.
Yeah, and arpeggiating these ideas too is very, very useful. Like, I grew up learning chords more than scales, so which is helpful for a keyboard player, but it's also specifically for keys. Like, if you learn certain chord shapes, then you kind of have a lot of notes to pick and choose from, all literally under your fingertips, and they're ready to go, instead of having to think of a scale and hop along a scale. Right. It's more like you're kind of you're just coasting. You're in a shape that can be used to arpeggiate. Like,
sure, yeah, that makes sense. So when you're playing a solo, is that mostly what you're thinking of? Is like you have these shapes under your hands already, and now you're just breaking them up into different melodic lines?
I would say so. Like, most of the time I am using chord shapes, and I think partly when I started to play more solos, I realized, man, I'm kind of just doing a lot of like,
oh sure,
like it sounded a little, it was a one-trick pony kind of thing. So yeah. I was like, I think that propelled me to start to explore other notes, so I would start to add notes to my chord voicing, so that I just kind of, my fingers are ready to play. I just have more options than just the root 3rd, 5th, and 7th of a chord. I kind of know where the 9, 11, and the 13 kind of fit in between those. So in other words, I kind of went the long route and then got eventually came to a scale, but just by
just having a 7-note chord, basically.
But yeah.
No, that's awesome though. And so this is something that I really want to talk to you about, actually.
Sure.
Lately, like this year, kind of, I've been really thinking a lot more about vocabulary in improvisation. And it's really interesting to me how different styles of music will have different, kind of solo vocabulary, melodic vocabulary that you kind of need to learn to be able to sound like you're playing in that genre.
Yeah.
Do you find, like, have you worked a lot on that kind of thing specifically, or does that stuff sort of just come from, like, you have these notes under your fingers, these chord voicings that you're breaking up and making into melodic lines, and then just from having listened to so much music, you kind of go, oh, that sounds right, and
yeah,
into it.
Yeah, I think, well, it definitely, certain musical ideas definitely fit more naturally on a specific instrument. So when I listen to music, you can tell when something was played on a keyboard, or certain voicing, just like on guitar, like you could probably tell some guitar parts are played because of the nature of that instrument. I guess for me, I just listened to a lot of, my dad brought me up listening to a lot of his vinyl collection, just James Brown, Herbie Hancock stuff, Richard T., Clifford Coulter, who's like a local Bay Area legend, a keyboard guy, and just a lot of these musicians that I grew up listening to. I noticed a lot of similarities in what they were playing, a lot of similar voicings. And so Billy Preston, I mean, the list just goes on and on. Donny Hathaway.
Sure.
But I think there were just a lot of kind of similarities in what they were playing, and they're all under that umbrella of like rhythm and blues, soul, jazz, funk. Right. And then it helped that my dad played too, so he would show me specific voicings. And But yeah, I think, I'm not sure if this is quite answering your question, but I just listened to a lot of stuff, and there was a lot of overlap across it. So it's kind of like getting immersed in a language and building that vocabulary. So
for sure,
I think there's just kind of a certain amount of, you reach a point when you've really immersed yourself and listened to enough of that music that you have a large enough vocabulary to feel kind of comfortable speaking in it.
I see. That makes a lot of sense. Because like learning a language, the fastest way is to just be immersed in the culture or whatever, and get it in your ears.
Sure.
It's not necessarily like, oh, I'm going to practice this, in all 12 keys for 3 hours a day.
Yeah.
So sorry, go ahead.
No, well, I think the thing that helps people is for it to be fun. So instead of like trying to like master a lick in all 12 keys, like just master it in the one key that you're going to use it for now, like in Green Hill Zone or whatever. And then and so then you've got it kind of ingrained and you're inspired and you're getting some results. And then the next song you learn, try doing that lick again in a different key.
Yeah. Totally. One step at a time. I like that a lot. So then my next question about this kind of topic is, I'm curious if you think that there's a, maybe it's in the process of being developed now, if there's a specific vocabulary for VGM artists.
Wow.
Especially when soloing.
Yeah.
Like, there's definitely, like in Green Hill Zone, you started off with the whatever key. It wasn't in that key, but you had that.
Exactly. Man, that's so, I think there's definitely, that's a really good question for VGM musicians. Like, what's the vocabulary of, like, well, I think there is definitely a vocabulary in VGM music in particular, like a lot of certain chordal cadences that I hear in a lot of music, a lot of that, like,
definitely
flat 6, flat 7, 1 kind of thing,
things like that.
Or, it's like that's so in a sense, like the nature of how so much video game music has that maneuver, or that a 1 chord and then like a flat 6 kind of thing, that in and of itself is a vocabulary to use. Like whenever we're playing Megalovania, I'll go into Guile's theme and Song of Storms and XYZ Ninja Turtles and like all these different tunes that kind of touch on that same progression. So what would be, for me, I just play all the memes. I just play all the video game memes. I don't think I've ever performed once without playing the Yi theme or
what the people want.
Exactly. But that's a really good point. It's like, I think that's something that just connects with people. That's something that I got from Clifford Coulter, who I mentioned him earlier, but he's a San Jose. He's basically the godfather of soul of San Jose. He's like the keyboard master that I grew up listening to, and he was just, you could totally get his humanity and his personality from his playing, because he would just connect with the audience, just playing little, like just throwing Flintstones in the middle of a tune, and just. You get the levity and you get the creativity from just hearing him play. And then he goes off and does some crazy runs, and you don't have to understand that, but you still feel like you connect with him. Anyway.
Yeah, totally.
And so like
awesome.
I definitely took that, I loved that experience, and being on the receiving side as well as the sending side of like just playing little memes that people will recognize, and being playful with it, playing it out of context. So like I'll oftentimes do like the coin thing. But like I think there's definitely a vocabulary of like sound bites, sound effects, and melodic ideas, and chords from video games.
That's so funny to me. Like, that's such a perfect example of you don't need to know anything about music to recognize that. Super recognizable. It's really easy as a musician to kind of put that in places, and then you're engaging people who aren't I get the feeling that a lot of jazz music is specifically enjoyed by people who are trying to be jazz musicians. That's I think a big portion of the audience.
Absolutely.
But so to be able to reach outside of this bubble to people who and actually connect with them in a musical ways is so cool to me.
Absolutely. I think that's the point of music, is to connect with people. And it's totally. I was just realizing we're talking a lot, and I'm loving it. Yeah. But maybe
let's do some more.
Maybe I'll play a little more. Yeah, we got the basically the 20. I think the 20. We got about 15 minutes left. 20 minutes here. So let's play some other stuff. What should we do?
Let's play
Let's see.
Okay, I gotta stop you. What's going on? What's that right hand doing right there?
So that was one of the first riffs I said, okay, if I'm gonna be playing video game music, I gotta have that on clutch. And it's not that hard. It just takes practice, but it's really just it's a C chord essentially. So you start on the 3, 5. And so the 3, 5, and then the octave of the 3, boom, 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 and then you scoot your thumb up, C, 1, 2, 5.
Oh.
Although actually, I think my fingering is, I go to my second finger and then 2, 3, 5. So 1, 3, 1, 2, 5. 1, 2, 5, 2, 3, 5. And then you just watch you watch The Simpsons for a couple hours just doing that.
I love it. Okay, so again, there's too many directions to go in here.
Right,
but
it's dense.
Well, let's talk about your left hand.
Sure.
Yeah, left hand. I guess
yeah.
I'm start now.
So
how do you do that?
That's true. No. So Richard T is the other guy. Clifford Coulter is my one main guy, and then Richard T is my other main guy. Just Google those names. You'll find a bit more of Richard T. He was a little more mainstream prolific, but he played in a band called Stuff, and actually a good number of their tunes would kind of go into these vamps of a minor chord or maybe a major chord, but oftentimes a minor chord, and it would be that specific movement of boom, 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 boom. So it's a when I start to repeat going up like this instead of the traditional space and then I was just kind of relating it to, that's similar to what Richard T did. So then I was switching to this boogie woogie thing that Richard T does.
Oh, cool. It's such an interesting connection.
Yeah. I think a lot of disco music kind of did that too. It was a very 70s kind of sound. So then over there I was then to approach back to our C. Yeah, a lot of when you're carrying bass on the left hand, it's always about knowing where your destination is and knowing where the 1 is rhythmically and where the root of the chord is.
Sure.
And then you could take whatever
get there.
Yeah, whatever path you want to take to get there. I was doing some. Oh yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, even before you did the double time super hype Richard T thing, you do the like leave a space, but in the space your hand would jump up and start adding more stuff. What were you thinking with that stuff?
I love doing this tune where there's space, because it could be very atmospheric. So like get like the delay going and like
So that's an interesting.
Yeah.
Just having that kind of like the fourths. Yes. And then a note on top, and then the fourths moving around.
Yes, I stole that from Russell Ferrante, who.
Okay.
If anyone's familiar with Russell Ferrante, he's the keyboardist and essentially the main composer for the Yellow Jackets, which is they're like world famous jazz group. Russell's from San Jose actually, and he's a buddy of my dad's. My dad and my uncle kind of grew up around him, and they played in some bands together. But Russell also cites Richard T. and Clifford Coulter as being his two keyboard inspirations. Oh man! And so we're both like members of the Richard T. and Clifford Coulter fan club. But yeah, there's a tune called Boomtown that's on their Mint Jam album, I think. Where he it's very similar. It's like it's kind of got like this kind of low thumpy bass. Oh, we got Dak in the house here. Dak's popping in. Hey,
Dak, how's it going, man?
Request from Benny T.
Okay.
We would love to know why Guile's theme
goes with that.
Everything.
That's a great question. Okay.
So maybe you guys can somehow figure that out.
That's a great idea.
The big mystery.
The big mystery. Okay, I think great question. All right. Here.
All right, let's do it.
Dak's literally just flying through the wall here. Great. Okay. So just to finish off that thought, yeah, Boomtown, Yellow Jackets. Give that tune a listen, and it's very similar in that it's got like these spaces in between, like some very low thumpy bass lines, like boop 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 stuff, and then boop 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 boop. And I hear Russell go like, so like doing essentially like a minor voicing, which is like an E flat major, but then. And you know, while I don't understand why that works, all I remember is the right note's always a half step away. So if you just play with chromaticism, some things will sound out and in, but just if you play it with purpose and think like rhythmically. If the idea is rhythmic or if it kind of makes sense and it's consistent, you know, anything can sound musical if there's some sort of continuity in the idea.
Sure. Very cool. Okay, well, let's get to
Guile's theme. Yeah.
Be a little less heady, maybe.
Yeah. What do you? I'm curious how you would assess that statement. How does Guile's theme work with everything?
Part of me thinks that everything works with Guile's theme. You know, like it's just such a great tune.
I think of like, well, first off, Guile's theme to me is melodically. So it's not really hitting too many different notes to like really outline clearly define a chord. True. So it becomes very versatile because it's only hitting a few notes, which, you know, the fewer notes you're hitting, the less chances there are of it clashing with whatever else you're doing. Also, but when I play it, I'm usually harmonizing it.
Right.
So it's essentially like a minor chord, C minor, to a B flat, and then back to a C minor. So this kind of comes full circle back to one of our earlier statements of how, like, in video game music vocabulary, a lot of video game songs have that particular progression, that cadence.
Totally.
So that cadence being like, if we're in C minor, or if we relate it to a C major even, having like this flat 6, which is A flat, then a flat 7, and then resolving to a C.
Right.
So like
super classic.
Yeah. So that kind of phrase, since it's in a lot of tunes, I think it often gets used specifically in those tunes where it literally is the same progression.
Right.
But also, like, let's see where it doesn't fit and see where it goes.
That's a better question. What doesn't fit?
I don't.
Oh, that actually works too well.
Ooh. That's actually a pretty sweet. Yeah, that definitely.
Yeah.
Man, but that's possibly that's VGM vocabulary 101. Just get the get Guile's theme down in all 12 keys, and then you got it for.
Then you
I love it.
Yeah. A little like aquatic ambience or something.
Yeah. It's it's even if you harmonize it, it's just two chords that are very close together and they're diatonically together. So in the sense that diatonic meaning like they both fit together or they can fit together in one unified scale. So then if you use it in relation to, sorry, I'm hearing myself through the my Discord thing. If you use it in the scale, then it lines up nicely. Yeah.
And like the fact that the original, you have that riff stays the same across like all the all the bass notes. It's already kind of built into the song that like it's harmonized a few different ways.
Right, exactly. The more I kind of play with music, literally just playing with it and throwing caution to the wind and just trying things out, playing chords and mixing stuff up, the more I realize chords are like they come from scales and it's sort of like everything is everything. Like if you're playing a if you're playing a chord, all the extensions that it implies are a scale, and so then it's just it all fits together. And so one chord that you're playing, really you could extend that out, and then that's like all the notes of all the other chords that are in that scale.
Right.
And
totally.
So it's kind of it's one.
Well, it's funny too. Like I feel like as you learn, like going through a typical kind of like I went to jazz school, so that's my frame of reference for everything. But going through a typical education process where you're like, I have my triad, and then add the 7th, and what about the 9th, 13th, the sharp 11? You're just like stacking all these notes together.
Yeah.
But then you get to the point where you're like, you can actually take out any of those, and then the master like Herbie Hancock or someone will play just like these little morsels where it's like, why did you pull those notes? Like that's supposed to be a D chord somehow, and you're like, what? But it's just like, everything is on the table.
What, you don't hear it? Oh wow! Hey, so we've got basically about 4 minutes left here. Maybe before we wrap, though, we should definitely kind of just make a mention of where people can find out more about us. But I don't know. Do you have any closing thoughts on like musically? I think for people to just listen to a lot of music and don't try to become a master like tomorrow. Like just like
totally.
I just had fun with it. I just picked a song and played it because I wanted to play it and have fun with it. And then I would get good at playing it one way, and then I would try to explore adding something else. And literally just in a playful way, just try other ideas that you've learned elsewhere. Like, hey, this is a random chord that that I learned in another song, and just try fitting things in and see what works and what doesn't.
Yeah, and learning how to play actual tunes, I think, is huge.
Yes,
like having that be the focus instead of I'm gonna learn my scales and all 12 keys and blah, blah, blah. Like it's not that stuff's not helpful or important, but
yeah, you learn that too by learning songs.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. I think that's a great takeaway.
That's truly it. Keep it fun so that you get the bug and that you keep with it. And
right. Well, yeah, that's the thing too.
That's truly it.
I had a prof in school who said like he was super intense, and he was like, "Oh yeah, you guys should be practicing minimum 4 hours a day."
Oh man, I feel
and then
bad.
At the time, everyone was like, "How the hell are we supposed to do that?" And he was kind of like, "Look, to be honest, like you just have to do some work till you get to the point where you start to see like real improvement, and then you'll get addicted to it, and you won't have to like sit down and slog through practice. It'll be like, oh, where did my day go? I've been practicing for 6 hours."
Right.
And I think he's totally right. Like, yeah. I've come to appreciate practice. It's like sitting down to practice a lot more since I was in school.
Wow. Yeah, that's true. And I think, just setting off and having fun with it. Okay, we're at 2:49. I think we got like 1 or 2 minutes left here. Okay. So, folks, thank you so much. There's a whole lot there's only so much we can cram into this Gwobstoppers.
Yeah,
but I would love to do this again. I
really too, man. This is super fun.
I just have a great time talking with Ben. Ben's the best. I really have a great time. I can't not smile when I see him in the room, and he's just a great guy. Where can we find out more about you?
8-Bit Music Theory is my name, and music theory is my game. I'm on YouTube at 8-Bit Music Theory. You can follow me on Twitter if you want, but I never tweet anything, so I don't know why you would.
I follow you on Twitter, so I'll be watching. Right on. No, he's got some incredible stuff on YouTube, and I love watching it. Like it lots of light bulbs go off when I watch his stuff.
Oh man, too kind.
And I guess my mug is going to be on MAGWest for the rest of this weekend. Once I'm done, we're going to run into the other room, and Dak and Ben and I are going to be kind of helping co-host the rest of the weekend here. But I'm Robbie Benson from Super Soul Bros. I also, as a personal artist, go by Gwobs. You can find me on all the social media of @Gwobs. And I just put out a lo-fi album called Chill Beats to File Your Taxes To, which is on gwobs.com.
Oh. Yeah, I will say my kid loves your album.
Oh, really?
I put it on in the car, and she was just like, like,
whoa, that's interesting. Thank you. Well, cool. I think we could probably wrap up here. I think we're probably right on time. I'm hearing some steps down the hallway here.
Right.
I don't know if someone's going to pop in.
Stop the Gwobs, everyone.
We've stopped it, but this isn't the last. Hopefully we can do this again at some point on another stream, another time. Thanks again, everybody.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you, 8-Bit Music Theory. That was a blast.
That was great.
We'll see you later.
All right.